Can we just admit that Two Worlds has broken past bad and entered into good territory? It is a good game now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my terrible channel. And today we're talking about something completely different than usual. We're talking about my favorite game on the Xbox 360. Is it really? I don't think it is. I don't know. I'll call it that for this video. It's one of my favorite RPGs for the Xbox 360. Two Worlds from Reality Pump Studios from 2007. Do you feel old yet? I do. I mean, I feel freaking old. I mean, you can't say Two Worlds without saying Oblivion. It is the O word, and every person who has ever reviewed this game has said Oblivion, so I don't want to say it. I will not say it again for the rest of this video review. It was promised to be amazing. It was promised to have customization and massive exploration and all of these things, and it ended up being a janky pile of fun, but not for what it was intended to be. If you were an Xbox 360 owner, you probably remember this game turning your white Xbox 360 into some type of a wind tunnel. And making it melt down into a pile of melted silicon. But this was a fantasy sandbox experience, and it was pretty fun. I remember going to the video game store to pick this game up, and when I bought it, the owner of the store was behind the counter, and as he scanned it, he kind of looked at me and said, "Why?" And I said, "I've heard it's bad, I just want to experience it." And he said, "Oh, it's bad. You'll find that out." That really, it sticks out in my head as one of the strangest video game purchases of my entire life. And my copy I have, I paid full price for, brand new, and I cherish it to this day. So today we're going to be taking a full look into Two Worlds on the Xbox 360. I'm playing it on the PC as well, because the PC version is more tolerable. It plays a little better. Two Worlds is set in the fantasy world of Antilore.
The death of Azeroth, the god of the orcs, put an end to the advance of his hordes through Antilore. Crushed by their defeat, the invaders fled south to mourn their leader. The victors refused to surrender Azeroth's corpse to the orcs, swiftly sealing it for eternity in a magical casket. With the death of Azeroth, the continent became infested with the taint. And there came a strange new magic to the land.
None of these words matter. There's a lot of words, and they commit the writing sin of naming things very similarly with the same letters. I would never do that. But anyway, a long time ago, the god of fire and destruction, Azeroth, was defeated and sealed away. Fast forward, and the orcs are trying to bring him back. You play as a nameless bounty hunter mercenary whose sister, Kyra, gets kidnapped early on. The kidnappers force you to collect powerful artifacts to help resurrect this ancient evil god, or so they say. The main story is straightforward. Rescue your sister, stop the resurrection, and deal with the war between humans and orcs. But the thing is, the story isn't the star here. What makes Two Worlds special is how non-linear it feels. You can pretty much do anything, go anywhere. You can even break the game and go places you're not supposed to go without cheats, just by jumping on boxes, jumping over walls, getting into cities you were never intended to get to because the door is locked. It's got a classic high fantasy vibe with forests, swamps, desert, castles, caves, dragon-filled ruins. The world feels alive but empty because you're generally running into mob camps of about 3 to 5 monsters at any one time. You're not going to see massive fields of enemies, and it definitely has a limitation because of the hardware and the technology of the time. Over large patches of territory, you will find pretty much nothing besides some collectibles for alchemy and maybe some loot, but typically loot and collectibles are non-consequential. You don't have to collect anything. You can use alchemy, but you are provided plenty of potions from spoils of killing monsters and also chests throughout the world. Gameplay-wise, Two Worlds is a real-time action action RPG. Combat feels pretty much boring. You slash, you dodge. There is nothing else to do. You can use some techniques like tricking enemies with line of sight. You can trick them or feign them into attacking, these types of things, but overall you are slashing and dodging or firing magic missiles. You can fight on foot with chain combos that essentially mean mashing one button, and there's a huge emphasis on basically just wandering around and doing what you want to do. There is no level cap. You can keep going forever. There are tons of skills and attribute points. There's some fairly interesting mechanics with magic, as you can stack the cards, increasing the spell's performance. You collect these cards to unlock spells, and some of these spells are locked behind different magic classes, like necromancy, earth magic, water magic, all that kind of stuff. The world is huge and seamless. You can travel from one edge of the map to the other, and there's no loading times between cities and the outdoors. The detriment to that is the terrible frame rate. It hitches constantly, even on modern hardware on a PC. On the Xbox 360, it is pretty much awful. If you're playing on a first-gen Xbox, it sounds like a wind tunnel, and it gets super hot. Playing on a more modern, slim Xbox is a slightly better experience, but overall, it's not great. One of the nice features of the game is you can stack weapons and armor and upgrade your weapons as long as they're the same type. This is a novel experience and generally adds to looting and generally gives you an incentive to loot things and upgrade your equipment. Most of the time, I just stuck with a piece of gear for a very long time because I saw almost no difference between what it provided and the effort it took to manage my freaking inventory that fills up very quickly. Your inventory does not expand, and you have a set amount of tiles to place objects into your inventory. It uses a paper doll setup, kind of like Daggerfall, where you apply objects to your character to increase stats and all that good stuff. There was a multiplayer feature that I enjoyed back on Xbox Live. It is now discontinued, and I believe there are people that can play online on PC, but it was forgotten. Nobody did it, and if you did find somebody who actually played online, it was a rarity back in the day. Speaking about the difference between Xbox 360 and PC, graphics are noticeably downgraded on Xbox as it runs at a native 720 resolution, and on PC you can push some pretty high resolutions. My monitor is a 1440p and it runs very nicely on that. The user interface feels clunky on the controller. It definitely plays better on a keyboard and mouse. Frame rate can dip, especially in busy areas, some bugs and quest breaking issues if you wander too much. There's a lot of jank in the game. If you wander too far outside of where you're not supposed to be, you suddenly hit like a death wall. But sometimes you can pass that death wall, and as you walk, it will kill you as you walk closer to the safe zone. I don't know how to describe it. It's really dumb. Many people say the PC Epic Edition is the way to play, but back in 2007, 2008, it was the 360. We didn't have the PC version. I don't find the exploration satisfying because, like I said, most gear is exactly like any other gear, and you're really just looking at getting a optimized build to do as much damage as possible while not taking damage. So you can be a total glass cannon and never get hit. One of the most notable things about the game is its voice acting.
Have you seen her of late? How does she fare?
Nay. Rice told me to stay away from the cities and wait for news from you. I do not disobey orders. I thought that Ho explained this to you. When I last saw him, I told him to give you all the answers.
Oh, it's you.
What kind of deadly magic is this?
What do you mean?
You know well what I mean. When I brought the dolls to those men, they all dropped dead.
Clearly, they did not hire professional voice actors. They used people in the studio that barely spoke English, and they tried to use old English phrases, words, and it sounds bad. I mean, it is It's bad, but it's also kind of hilarious, and everyone talks about this. At a certain point, I don't even turn the voices on. I just play the game, and it's just about grinding through. It's a mindless button masher, kind of like God of War in some respects, because you're just smashing the same button and killing enemies and picking up loot, getting gold. You don't really need to have gold. You don't really need to have loot. It's kind of pointless once you get to a certain level and once your build is optimized. So let's talk about the bad. The clunky controls and UI on Xbox 360 are pretty much unforgivable. The story is mediocre. There's forgettable main characters. There's forgettable side characters. The world design is pretty to look at, but it's largely irrelevant because you only have a set path of places you need to go, and a lot of it is just side quests that you would never reasonably find on your own unless you were trying to go out and find the stuff. There's lots of bugs and balance issues, and you could become ridiculously overpowered, but let's also talk about the good. So there is a massive sense of freedom and exploration. The only problem with that is you feel like you're just wandering around an empty world. Deep character building with no limits. To a certain extent, you can build a character into an absolute powerhouse and get to the point where there's nothing in the game that can touch you. I do like that. Fun combat once you get the hang of it. The combat is semi-satisfying because you can just plow through enemies once you get very powerful, and there's lots of side content, and there is some replayability to that. Another one of the best things about this game is the absolutely incredible soundtrack. It goes hard. It goes so hard, I don't even understand how these two pieces of media are connected to each other. That being said, there are some high points and low points to the music. Sometimes it's kind of disjointed and bad. Other times it just tears your face off and you're like, oh my God. Who are you people? It is so bad it's good. That's the charm of the game. One of the main things about this game that is incredibly intriguing, in my opinion, is the studio behind the game. Because they produced a game that was hyped up to a level that was completely unreasonable to meet expectations. And they knew it. They had to have known the game was an absolute pile of doo-doo. But they kept pushing. They were just lying about it, you know? They were just swinging for the fences. In a way, I find that funny, and I also find it completely stupid. I am intrigued by Reality Pump Studios. I'm intrigued by the guys behind the game because it's so bad you can almost open the hood, peek inside the bonnet, and you get a glimpse into how the game was made. Because it feels human, it feels flawed, it doesn't feel polished or perfect. So it feels more attainable in some respects that, you know, a company tried and failed just like all the other people out there that try in their daily lives and fail. I guess a summary of this entire video would be, I'm more intrigued by this studio than the game. I would love to sit down with this crew that made the game and figure out what the heck was going through their minds. They still exist. They're in Germany or something like that. If I'm ever in Germany, I want to swing by and knock on the door and be like, what the frick did you guys do with this? And you know the crazy part? They made a second game. It's called Two Worlds 2. And in that game, it has DLC that they still made until like a couple years back. Yeah, they still made DLC for Two Worlds 2 until 2019, pre-COVID. And they're still apparently working on DLC for it if their website is to be believed. People are mentalists, and I want to meet them. I got to know what's going on in their heads. All I can think of is that they're just diehards that don't have any talent. So when they get together, they produce garbage, but they produce so much garbage that it's like befuddling to everybody around them. This is often called a Eurojank classic. Ambitious, flawed but full of heart. Some players still call it one of their favorite 7th gen RPGs despite all its flaws. Is Two Worlds on the Xbox 360 or PC worth playing? It depends on how much time you have. I would not spend a lot of money on this, and I would not keep your expectations very high. It's enough to give you an afternoon full of fun, and then you'll probably put it down and not play it again. Somebody like me, who grew up experiencing this firsthand, it's got a nostalgic feeling to it. I purchased this game with my own money way back in the day, and I had to live with it because I wasn't the type of person to buy a bunch of games back then. The cost of this game was a big purchase for me at my minimum wage crappy job. So I stuck it out. I played through the entire game multiple times, and it just hits differently for me than it will for anybody else. Most people will just see it as just another bad 7th gen RPG. On a side note, there is an amazing speed run. I believe it was on Games Done Quick, where you can beat the game in like a minute. It's incredible. And you just play through the game. You don't have to glitch anything. You just use the mechanics of the game world, and then boom, you're done. The game's over. If you guys like this video, maybe I'll do a review on Two Worlds 2. I have a lot less experience with it because for some reason I entered like a time warp and I completely forgot about Two Worlds 2. I never owned it back in the day, but I will gladly pick it up and try it if you guys want to see that. So, if you enjoyed this, give me a like, give me a comment. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next mother flippin' vidya.